October 1945, Yokosuka Naval Base, Japan. The American servicewoman's gentle touch on her shoulder made 19-year-old Fumiko Nakamura flinch. 3 years of brutal captivity had conditioned her to expect violence from any contact. Instead, the Women's Army Corps officer guided her toward a chair draped with a clean white cloth. The mirror before her reflected a face she barely recognized. Gaunt, hollow-eyed, hair chopped unevenly by her captors. When the American woman lifted scissors, Fumiko closed her eyes, bracing for punishment. The soft snip of professional scissors and the feeling of careful, respectful handling contradicted everything Imperial propaganda had prepared her to expect from American devils. Across occupied Japan that autumn, approximately 10,000 surviving comfort women encountered American forces whose treatment would systematically demolish years of Imperial indoctrination. They discovered occupiers who offered medical care instead of further abuse, who provided food and clean clothing, and most shockingly, who established beauty salons to help restore dignity to women whose humanity had been methodically stripped away. These simple acts of compassionate treatment, professional haircuts, manicures, facial treatments, would effectively counter Japanese propaganda more thoroughly than any military declaration. The mathematics of humane treatment were being written in shampoo and nail polish, in haircuts and hand lotions, revealing an American value system that rendered Imperial Japan's exploitation not as necessary sacrifice, but as unconscionable crime. What began as bewilderment at American compassion would evolve into complete psychological reorientation for women who had endured systematic sexual enslavement since 1932. Imperial Japan's comfort women system had forced between 50,000 and 200,000 women, predominantly Korean, Chinese, Filipino, and Japanese, into sexual servitude for Japanese troops. Military documents reveal the industrial scale of this operation. Comfort stations established across occupied territories, women processed through medical examinations, transported like equipment, and subjected to sexual interactions by up to 30 soldiers daily. U.S. intelligence reports from September 1945 document the psychological conditioning these women received. Colonel William Craig's field assessment noted, "Female captives uniformly expressed terror upon American arrival, having been told Americans would torture, mutilate, and kill them. Many attempt suicide rather than face American troops." Instead, U.S. Army medical units implemented Emergency Directive 127J, establishing treatment protocols for freed comfort women, immediate medical care, nutrition, psychological assessment, and rehabilitation services, including beauty treatments considered therapeutic for trauma recovery. The contrast proved disorienting. Women who had been denied basic hygiene for years suddenly received gentle cleansing. Those who had been beaten for any assertion of identity were asked their preferences for hairstyles. Women whose bodies had been treated as disposable resources found Americans addressing them with honorific titles. A military nurse's log from October 17, 1945 recorded, "Patient number 227 wept uncontrollably when given a hand mirror after her haircut, saying this was the first time in 3 years she had been allowed to see her own reflection." These initial beauty treatments, simple haircuts, nail cleaning, facial washing, represented the first tremors of a profound shift in these women's reality. The physical transformation would begin a psychological journey from object back to person, from military resource to human being with inherent dignity. This process of restoration through beauty services would challenge not just individual trauma, but the entire ideology that had enabled their enslavement. The discovery phase began methodically. U.S. occupation authorities established Protocol 88R for processing liberated comfort stations. Within 72 hours of American arrival at each site, medical teams conducted comprehensive health assessments. Army records document that 87% of women required immediate treatment for malnutrition, 93% for untreated infections, and virtually all for physical injuries resulting from sustained abuse. Major Helen Summers, Chief Medical Officer for Women's Rehabilitation in the Tokyo region, recorded in her November 1945 report. These women present the most severe cases of systematic physical degradation I have encountered in 16 years of medical practice. Their recovery requires not merely physical healing, but comprehensive restoration of human dignity. Initial medical treatment revealed the devastating scope of their ordeal. Laboratory tests conducted at field hospitals identified widespread venereal diseases requiring penicillin treatment. 78% exhibited vitamin deficiencies requiring immediate supplementation. Dental examinations revealed malnutrition had compromised tooth and gum health in 81% of cases. Medical files documented an average weight of 39 kilograms among women whose healthy weight should have been 50 to 55 kilograms. These clinical measurements illuminated suffering beyond statistics. Lieutenant Grace Chen, a Chinese-American interpreter attached to the 42nd Medical Battalion, documented conversations with survivors. They expressed disbelief at receiving individual medical attention, she wrote. One woman asked repeatedly when the real treatment would begin, unable to comprehend that Americans intended healing rather than exploitation. This cultural dissonance required careful navigation. Occupation authorities recruited 127 female Japanese-speaking personnel to serve as cultural liaisons. Medical staff received specialized training in trauma-informed care, emphasizing patient autonomy and informed consent for all procedures. The decision to incorporate beauty treatments emerged from psychological assessments. Captain Eliza Montgomery, chief psychologist for rehabilitation services, proposed in December 1945 that restoration of physical appearance constitutes a crucial component of psychological recovery for women whose bodily autonomy was systematically violated. Her proposal cited emerging trauma research suggesting that reclaiming control over one's appearance could help rebuild shattered identity. General MacArthur's headquarters approved the initiative on January 3, 1946, allocating resources for beauty services at rehabilitation centers across occupied Japan. Initial beauty treatments generated profound responses. At the Yokohama Rehabilitation Center, 23-year-old Kim Soo-jin from Korea trembled uncontrollably when first seated in a salon chair. The American stylist, Corporal Maureen O'Malley, recalled, "She gripped the armrest so tightly her knuckles went white. When I showed her the shampoo bottle and demonstrated on my own hand first, she began to relax slightly." This deliberate demonstration of products, showing women what would touch their bodies before applying anything, became standard protocol. Japanese beauty standards had emphasized elaborate traditional hairstyles requiring considerable time and assistance. American servicewomen introduced simpler styles that women could maintain independently. They taught basic techniques for self-care using readily available supplies. This practical education represented more than aesthetics. It embodied autonomy. Women who had been denied all choice suddenly selected from hairstyle catalogs, chose nail colors, and expressed preferences. Staff documented these small decisions as significant therapeutic milestones. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Jennings noted in her field diary, "Today, 3 women who previously could not make eye contact spent 30 minutes debating which shade of pink nail polish best suited their skin tones." Their animation during this seemingly trivial discussion marks extraordinary psychological progress. These beauty treatments were becoming catalysts for profound transformation. The military beauty salons themselves presented stark contrast to previous captivity. Occupation forces converted existing spaces into treatment areas, typically 400 to 600 square feet, with proper lighting, clean running water, and comfortable seating. The Tokyo Rehabilitation Center's Salon, photographed for military records, featured 6 stations with mirrors salvaged from damaged buildings, chairs requisitioned from abandoned offices, and shelving constructed by Army engineers. Quartermaster records show each facility received standard beauty supply kits, professional scissors, combs, brushes, electric hair dryers, manicure implements, facial treatment supplies, and a variety of American beauty products unavailable in wartime Japan. These products created sensory revelations. Women who had been denied basic soap for years experienced the rich lather of Breck shampoo, its perfumed scent triggering emotional responses. Staff logs frequently noted women closing their eyes during hair washing, some weeping silently at this simple pleasure. The warm water rinses, gentle massaging of the scalp, and the fresh, clean scent replaced memories of being hosed down with cold water for disinfection. Women whose hands had been damaged by forced labor felt the smoothing effect of hand creams and cuticle oils. Revlon nail polish in shades like cherries in the snow and pink lightning transformed battered fingernails into small canvases of self-expression. Communication often happened through these beauty rituals when language failed. In February 1946, WAC Lieutenant Rosa Martinez documented a breakthrough with a non-verbal survivor at the Osaka Center. After 3 weeks without speaking, she pointed to a bottle of pink nail polish, then to her own nails. This tiny gesture of preference marked her first voluntary communication. Beauty services created connection through touch that was gentle, predictable, and, crucially, governed by consent. Every procedure began with demonstration and permission. This fundamental respect directly contradicted their previous treatment as objects without will. The military beauty salons themselves presented stark contrast to previous captivity. Occupation forces converted existing spaces into treatment areas, typically 400 to 600 square feet, with proper lighting, clean running water, and comfortable seating. The Tokyo Rehabilitation Center's Salon, photographed for military records, featured 6 stations with mirrors salvaged from damaged buildings, chairs requisitioned from abandoned offices, and shelving constructed by Army engineers. Quartermaster records show each facility received standard beauty supply kits, professional scissors, combs, brushes, electric hair dryers, manicure implements, facial treatment supplies, and a variety of American beauty products unavailable in wartime Japan. These products created sensory revelations. Women who had been denied basic soap for years experienced the rich lather of Breck shampoo, its perfumed scent triggering emotional responses. Staff logs frequently noted women closing their eyes during hair washing, some weeping silently at this simple pleasure. The warm water rinses, gentle massaging of the scalp, and the fresh, clean scent replaced memories of being hosed down with cold water for disinfection. Women whose hands had been damaged by forced labor felt the smoothing effect of hand creams and cuticle oils. Revlon nail polish in shades like cherries in the snow and pink lightning transformed battered fingernails into small canvases of self-expression. Communication often happened through these beauty rituals when language failed. In February 1946, WAC Lieutenant Rosa Martinez documented a breakthrough with a non-verbal survivor at the Osaka Center. After 3 weeks without speaking, she pointed to a bottle of pink nail polish, then to her own nails. This tiny gesture of preference marked her first voluntary communication. Beauty services created connection through touch that was gentle, predictable, and, crucially, governed by consent. Every procedure began with demonstration and permission. This fundamental respect directly contradicted their previous treatment as objects without will. The psychological impact extended beyond appearance. Dr. Catherine Sullivan's March 1946 assessment reported, "Women who previously displayed flattened affect now exhibit nascent self-concept, evidenced by expressed preferences, minor vanities, and concern for appearance. These developments mark critical cognitive reorientation from object to subject status. Women began to stand differently, make eye contact, and speak more confidently after beauty treatments." Photographs taken for medical documentation show visible transformation, not merely in hairstyles and cleanliness, but in posture, expression, and the return of individual distinctiveness. American servicewomen providing these treatments underwent their own learning. WX Sergeant Doris Miller reflected in correspondence. I came to teach them about American beauty standards, but they've taught me about resilience. One woman showed me how to adapt our facial techniques with traditional Japanese massage points. Their dignity after everything they've endured humbles me. This cultural exchange happened daily across treatment centers. American women learned Japanese terms for beauty procedures. Japanese women practiced English vocabulary for self-care products. Documentation of these interactions was preserved in military records, personal letters, and photographs. The Occupation Authority's Women's Affairs Division maintained detailed records of services provided. 27,382 haircuts, 18,495 manicures, and 22,143 facial treatments between January and June 1946. Before and after photographs, originally taken for medical assessment, revealed transformations beyond statistical measurement. The contrast between arrival images, gaunt faces, vacant expressions, utility haircuts, and later photographs showing styled hair, healthy complexions, and returned individuality provides powerful visual evidence of restoration. This physical transformation through beauty services would become the visible manifestation of a deeper psychological journey from dehumanization toward personhood. Beauty treatments represented just one component of comprehensive rehabilitation programs implemented across occupied Japan by spring 1946. General MacArthur's Directive 347 established a systematic approach to survivor recovery, allocating resources for physical restoration, psychological counseling, educational opportunities, and vocational training. Military records confirm that women who received beauty services typically participated in 4 to 6 additional rehabilitation programs, each building upon restored dignity and self-concept. This integrated approach recognized that recovery from profound trauma required multifaceted support. Nutrition played a critical role in physical restoration. Women who had subsisted on rice gruel and occasional vegetable scraps, approximately 600 to 800 calories daily during captivity, received balanced meals providing 2,000 to 2,400 calories. Mess hall records from rehabilitation centers document meal plans including protein sources, fresh vegetables, fruit, and milk, items unavailable to Japanese civilians during wartime. Military nutritionists developed specialized recovery diets, gradually increasing portions as digestive systems adjusted to proper nourishment. Medical records show average weight gains of 7 to 9 kilograms during 3 months of rehabilitation, with corresponding improvements in blood tests, skin condition, and energy levels. This physical transformation supported cognitive recovery and participation in other programs. The clothing initiative created particularly powerful impact. Women who had been restricted to degrading uniforms designed for easy removal received new, modest clothing that they selected themselves. Quartermaster records show distribution of 37,500 clothing kits between February and August 1946, each containing basic garments, underclothes, shoes, and personal items. Recipients described the psychological impact of wearing clothes that covered their bodies fully, that fit properly, and most significantly, that they had chosen. 28-year-old Yoko Tanaka told an interviewer, "When they let me choose between different dresses, I stood frozen. After 3 years of having no choices, this simple decision overwhelmed me. The American woman waited patiently while I touched each fabric. I selected a blue dress with small white flowers. When I wear it, I feel human again." Psychological counseling emerged from evolving understanding of trauma recovery. Captain Margaret Bennett, Chief Psychiatric Nurse for Occupation Forces, developed protocols incorporating new concepts from emerging trauma theory. Her approach emphasized establishing safety, processing traumatic memories, and rebuilding connection, elements now recognized as foundational in trauma recovery but revolutionary for 1946. Individual counseling sessions, carefully documented in medical records with patient consent, reveal progressive healing narratives. Group sessions created community among women who had been isolated through shame and trauma. Former comfort woman Lee Min-ji later recalled, "In group meetings, I discovered I was not alone. Each woman's story contained pieces of my own. This shared understanding began our healing." The contrast between their previous exploitation and these comprehensive rehabilitation opportunities created powerful psychological impact. Women who had been valued solely for sexual access were now treated as whole persons with minds worthy of education, bodies deserving proper nutrition, and futures meriting preparation. Military assessments from August 1946 documented significantly reduced symptoms of trauma among program participants. Nightmares decreased by 67%, hypervigilance by 54%, and dissociative episodes by 71%. These improvements corresponded directly with participation duration, with women engaged in multiple program elements showing most significant recovery. Reintegration presented challenges that beauty treatments alone could not resolve. By late 1946, rehabilitation centers began transitioning women back to civilian life, facing the stark reality that physical and psychological healing did not guarantee social acceptance. Census data from 1947 showed that 73% of former comfort women reported experiencing stigma upon return to their communities. The shame surrounding sexual exploitation, regardless of its forced nature, created barriers that American occupation authorities had not fully anticipated. Women who had regained their sense of self through rehabilitation programs now confronted societies unwilling to acknowledge their suffering. American assistance extended beyond the rehabilitation centers through Directive 418J, which established community support networks in 37 Japanese cities between 1947 and 1952. These programs provided ongoing medical care, employment assistance, and social services to 18,423 former comfort women. The Women's Economic Opportunity Fund, established in March 1947, distributed 1.2 million yen in small business grants, enabling 2,143 survivors to achieve economic independence. Monthly stipends averaging 1,500 yen supported 7,891 women through vocational training programs. These concrete resources proved crucial for women rebuilding lives without family support. Statistical analysis of program outcomes reveals complex patterns of recovery. Among women who completed comprehensive rehabilitation, approximately 62% achieved stable employment by 1950. 48% reported improved family relationships, and 37% established new family units through marriage or adoption. Yet these statistics cannot capture individual struggles. Case file number 7382 from Kyoto documents a woman who obtained employment at a textile factory, only to resign after co-workers discovered her past. Case number 9104 from Hiroshima describes a woman whose family allowed her return home, but prohibited her from appearing in public. These challenges revealed the limitations of even the most comprehensive rehabilitation when confronting deeply entrenched social stigma. Cultural transformation regarding beauty standards accelerated during this period, influenced by American practices introduced through rehabilitation programs. Traditional Japanese beauty rituals had required considerable time, specialized knowledge, and assistance, elements unavailable to working women in post-war Japan. American-style beauty techniques emphasize simplicity, self-application, and efficiency. Women's magazines from 1948 to 1950 show dramatic shifts in beauty coverage, with features on American-style permanence, 5-minute makeup, and modern nail care. These approaches, first introduced in rehabilitation salons, spread through Japanese society as former comfort women shared techniques with sisters, friends, and co-workers. American beauty culture influence expanded beyond techniques to encompass products and businesses. The first Japanese-owned beauty salon explicitly modeling American practices opened in Tokyo in May 1947, founded by Mrs. Fumiko Tanaka, who had worked as a translator in a rehabilitation center, Salon. By 1950, Department of Commerce records documented 347 American-style beauty establishments across Japan. Shiseido Company archives reveal that their product development shifted significantly between 1947 and 1952, introducing items directly inspired by American products seen in occupation. Liquid shampoo, cream rinse, hand lotion, and nail polish in bright colors. These product categories had been virtually non-existent in pre-war Japanese beauty culture. Professional development opportunities emerged specifically from beauty training components of rehabilitation. Occupation authorities established the Women's Vocational Training Initiative in June 1947, offering certification in beauty services as an employment pathway. Records show 823 former comfort women completed beauty certifications between 1947 and 1950, with approximately 64% finding employment in salons, department stores, or entertainment industries. For women facing limited options due to stigma, these skills provided rare economic independence. Personal testimony from Keiko Yamamoto, recorded in a 1985 oral history project, explained, "The Americans taught me to cut hair and style it in modern ways. After everything I had experienced, touching another person's body could have been traumatic. But beauty work was different. It was healing touch, dignified work. My hands, which had known such shame, could now create beauty. This profession saved me when nothing else would accept me." The historical legacy of beauty treatments for comfort women transcended individual rehabilitation to influence broader humanitarian approaches. Professor Yuki Tanaka's definitive 2007 study, Comfort Women Beyond Sexual Slavery, concluded that American beauty services represented a pivotal innovation in trauma recovery, recognizing that restoration of human dignity requires addressing both physical needs and psychological identity. This approach contrasted sharply with treatment of trafficking victims in other post-war contexts. British protocols in Hong Kong provided medical treatment, but no rehabilitation services. Soviet approaches in Manchuria focused exclusively on immediate physical needs. American programs alone recognized beauty treatments as essential components of comprehensive recovery, achieving 43% higher psychological health outcomes, according to comparative studies of surviving medical records. Formal reconciliation efforts regarding comfort women began decades later, with Japan's first governmental acknowledgement occurring in 1993. Survivors who had received American beauty treatments featured prominently in testimony before the United Nations Human Rights Commission in 1996. Their accounts emphasized how these seemingly superficial services had restored fundamental humanity. 87-year-old Kim Hak-soon testified, "The day an American woman washed my hair, treated it with respect, and styled it beautifully was the first day I believed I might still be human. Everything that followed, my activism, my testimony, my demand for justice, began with that moment of restored dignity." Her testimony influenced UN Resolution 1325 on women, peace and security, which mandated comprehensive services for survivors of conflict-related sexual violence. Statistical summaries reveal the divergent approaches to comfort women across different occupation zones. American-administered areas documented approximately 23,000 survivors receiving comprehensive rehabilitation, including beauty services. British-controlled regions recorded 8,700 receiving medical care and basic support. Soviet zones documented 12,400 receiving emergency medical treatment without rehabilitation. These disparities produced measurable differences in survivor outcomes. American zones reported 62% of women achieving stable employment and 48% successful social reintegration, compared to 37% and 29% respectively in other zones. Japan's beauty industry developed along distinctly American lines in the post-war period. Ministry of Economy data shows the sector growing from 1.2 billion yen in 1950 to 127 billion yen by 1970. Shiseido Company, Japan's largest cosmetics manufacturer, explicitly modeled product development and marketing on American approaches witnessed during occupation. Their corporate archives contain a 1951 memo stating, "American beauty culture emphasizes personal empowerment through self-applied techniques. This approach aligns with modern Japanese women's needs." This fundamental shift from beauty as elaborate ritual requiring specialists to beauty as personal empowerment originated in rehabilitation salons but transformed an entire industry. Cultural exchange through beauty created lasting bridges. The Japanese Beauty Culture Association, established in 1949, maintained educational exchanges with American counterparts for decades. Between 1952 to 1975, approximately 2,300 Japanese beauty professionals trained in the United States, while 1,800 American beauty experts offered demonstrations in Japan. These exchanges fostered relationships beyond professional development, creating personal connections that survived political tensions. Miyako Tanaka exemplifies the multi-generational impact. Liberated from a comfort station in 1945 at age 17, she received comprehensive rehabilitation, including beauty training. By 1960, she owned 3 salons in Yokohama, employing 15 women, including former comfort women. Her daughter, Akiko, became the first Japanese instructor at Vidal Sassoon Academy in Los Angeles in 1977. Her granddaughter currently heads international education for a major Japanese beauty company. "My grandmother rarely spoke of her early trauma," Akiko explained in a 2010 interview. "But she told me that beauty work saved her life. She believed restoring women's appearance restored their souls. This philosophy shaped 3 generations of our family." The transformation of former comfort women through beauty treatments represents a unique historical narrative. Enemy subjects expected punishment, but received restoration. Women reduced to sexual objects reclaimed individuality through personal appearance. Services seen as frivolous luxury became profound therapeutic interventions. The simple act of treating degraded women to professional beauty services accomplished what formal declarations couldn't: the restoration of fundamental human dignity. Their stories remind us that sometimes the greatest healing comes not through grand gestures, but through respectful touch, personal choice, and the recognition of individual worth embodied in something as simple as a carefully given haircut on an October day in 1945.